Good morning, traders and investors. Thanks for tuning in here this morning on Thursday, July 2025. Bulls are in full control here. We get news overnight of a 50% tariff on Brazil. Bulls don't care, doesn't even matter. Bulls taking a lead in names like MP Materials here this morning. Our stupid move of the day, BTCM. Look at the price action in Delta. Delta report, was it that strong? And investors just chasing here this morning. We're going to talk semis and Bitcoin strength here from yesterday. We got jobless claims at 8:30 a.m. Just a little heads up. Early guest today, Mark Chaken of Chaikin Analytics at 8:15 a.m. and a heck of a lot of ratings here this morning. We'll get to the ratings parade in a little bit. Folks, please hit that like and subscribe buttons. It helps the channel grow. Let's get it going here on Pre-Market Prep.
The volatility right now is really incredible.
Wow, look at that consolidation on the upper right chart.
You know what we've seen this earnings season? Some of these expected moves get even more violent. And this is why I have switched my strategy 10 years ago. And if you're chasing, you're in trouble.
Morning, Mr. Fromhertz.
Good morning, guys. Good morning. Happy Thursday, everybody. I'm going to give you a quick market rundown for you. I'll start with the Asian markets. Nikkei was down 0.4 of a percentage point. Hang Seng up 0.5%. Shanghai also up about 0.5% this morning. In Europe, mostly green this morning. You got the DAX up just 0.1 of a percentage point. Spain, Italy down a little bit, so they're underperforming. Let's get over to commodities this morning. You got crude down about 1% this morning. That's the chart that I've got up in front of you. Let's get over to the nat gas market. That's also sliding a little bit down 0.1 of a percentage point. Copper this morning was green, but I now see it reversing and going a little bit lower, down 0.2 of a percentage. Oops, that's the wrong chart. Let me get the right chart up for you guys. Futures, copper. There we go. There's copper up. That makes more sense to me. Up 0.8 of a percentage point this morning. Copper continues to break higher. Gold. Gold has been pretty quiet lately, still staying around that 50-day moving average there in gold, up 0.2 of a percentage point. Let's go over to silver, which has been outperforming as of late. That's still the wrong thing. I'm sorry, having a little bit of issue there with charts this morning. There's silver futures up almost 1% this morning. Also, just want to cover palladium because I am long palladium, getting a nice boost this morning, up 2.7%. Let's turn over to the Bitcoin markets, the crypto markets, excuse me. Bitcoin had that breakout yesterday, did touch new highs. Personally, I'm looking for some follow through here. Let's see if we begin to kind of trend and take out, start to kind of break above those June highs. And then I'm just going to cover Ethereum too, because Ethereum has really been on the move recently. So Ethereum up 1.4%, also to the top of the range. Let's see if we can get Ethereum to break out. Turning over to S&P futures, they were a little bit red this morning, but buy the dip a little bit this morning. You got S&P futures just higher about 0.1 of a percentage point. NASDAQ futures are up also about the same thing, kind of in a bit of a grind mode at this point. And then finally, Russell futures, which are outperforming a bit, up 0.2 of a percentage point. There you go. Quick rundown of the markets. There's a lot. Dennis, good morning. How you doing?
Just chasing everything. The chase is on. That's what's happening here this morning. The moves. And I mean, you can look at the S&P and say, oh, it's a nothing day, nothing going on. The S&Ps are completely flat from where we closed, trading at 624.05 the SPY. Not the case. There are significant moves in stocks, ratings galore, analysts chasing price, investors chasing price, even me thinking about chasing price. I'm sitting at my desk this morning. Got up early because I couldn't sleep. I'm at my desk like 5 a.m. That's 6 a.m. MP Materials hits. That the headline hits that they got a transformational public-private partnership with the Department of Defense to accelerate U.S. rare earth magnet independence. Sounds awesome. I was like, oh, that's going to go. it goes 31.32 in about 2 seconds. So the algos just rip it up. And I'm like, wow, I don't know if I want to pay 32. And then it's 33. And I'm like, well, I definitely don't think I want to pay 33, because I was thinking about buying it. So anyways, around 6:30, it was like 35, 36. I go to bed. It's 43. So, I mean, investors and traders just getting rewarded here for chasing stocks. Same thing, and I'll let you get your thoughts on MP in a second here, Christian, but I just want to kind of couple these things together here. BTCM, 6 a.m. Again, there was a news headline. Bit mining limited expands into a Solana ecosystem. I watched BTCM instantaneously because the algos are all over it, go from $2.50 to $3. And I'm like, it's like 3.25. I'm like, well, it looks like a positive headline, but I'm not going to chase it up to 3.25. That's up like 40%. That's a big move. It's up 237% now. Up 830. Investors, traders, algos, just chasing these headlines, man, moving. Joel's been calling it the stupid move of the day. I'm going to give BTCM the stupid move of the day, but holy crap, Christian, there are some big moves here.
Yeah, no doubt there are some big moves, and yeah, that's the one of the day, the BTCM. MP, I just was going to go over the news really quick with this because
Sure.
it was interesting because there was a little bit of a double story to this. They got so the DoD is positioned to become the company's largest holder. I believe the contract was for $400 million. I believe, if I've got that right, and.
Yeah.
But they also announced that there's $1 billion financing commitment as well. So that's your kind of kicker that got this thing going. But, if you look at this, I've got the 1 hour chart here of MP Materials, and it kind of just lulled you to sleep a little bit. It went down from, it kind of peaked out here at 38, rolled back, rolled down a little bit, rolled up, and it's kind of been, until this news, and that's, these names are really moving on some of these contracts, but I kind of got shaken out of this. This was a little bit, I noticed that this was a real nice move. I was in it a couple times on this move up, and I tried to position here a little bit, and it just like right into here, and it didn't have any follow through on it, and I ended up selling it. So some of these things you've really had to have patience, because this is a move. Let's just talk about both sides of this for a minute. It peaked up at 30 or around 38.50. But that's a significant move to the downside in terms of a pullback. That's going down $8 from where it was. So that's tough to hold. Like if you were positioning, if you were buying the dip in here, as I was, and I got kind of shaken out of that, and I certainly wasn't going to hold it on the break of the 20-day moving average. So congrats if you're a long-term holder. And by the way, everybody has different time frames for some of these things. I'm more of a short-term swing trader, or a middle term swing trader, depending on the idea. But that's the kind of difficult thing, is that you had to sit with a little bit of pain in this one. So anyway, just wanted to add a little bit of perspective, because yeah, you're really getting rewarded this morning, but it's been a tough go of it the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and by chasing, I think I need to clarify a little bit further. It's chasing of the headlines. Like, I'm a headline trader. I've always been a headline trader. When we were starting the STN room, I considered actually making the website headlinetrader.com, because like I trade headlines. I don't like chasing the headlines though, but like right now, chasing on that is being rewarded. And to your point, it's not everything getting bought, Christian. There's not like just, they're running into these, they're running into that. They're actually certain stocks are just relentlessly being sold. I mean, you could look like a Centene. That thing gets hammered down and continues to go down. So, I mean, even the chase is on there too, to a certain extent. It's just the other direction where, there's just, it's not like where we were in the beginning of the year was contrarian dream, where you were getting pops and drops and rips and dips. Now it seems like it's not that. It's like full momentum to the upside, momentum to the downside. And once you get going in the right direction, man, these stocks keep going. Delta, for instance, this morning too, and I want to throw it into the Momo trade here as well. Consolidation station for a few days on the technical. So from a swing trading perspective, there was no chase here at all. But on the earnings here this morning, which I will give you as well, or Brentster, you're there if you have them, but I've got them here in front of me. 210 versus 205, 16.65 Boeing versus $13.45 billion. I mean, that's a nice beat on the top. That's a nice beat on the bottom. The guidance is pretty good too. The guidance for the full year was 542, and they see 525 to 625. I actually have to take this call to my doctor. I'm gonna let.
Yeah, sure. We'll talk a little bit. Yeah, I mean, the airlines is another one of those groups that it's been a little bit sleepy over the last few months. You know, they had this big run in the beginning of the year, and they kind of just been a little bit dormant. They've kind of started and stopped. So I agree with Dennis about the momentum, but I also think you have to understand when that momentum kind of comes out of a couple names. Like, we're going to cover upgrades and downgrades, but just to kind of go over his point. But you
Yeah.
look at what CoreWeave is doing here a bit. CoreWeave got another downgrade this morning, right? This was a hot stock, and for now, it just kind of seems like it's lost that upside momentum. It's not doing anything major to the downside, but I believe it's not really participating where other stocks are doing well. So that momentum trade is important, but you also want to understand when that momentum kind of leaves the station a little bit. So I find that interesting. We're going to talk. I'm going to just shift while Dennis is on the phone to another earnings name. Taiwan Semiconductor came out with earnings. Sure. I think that's a big name as well. They mentioned a couple things in here that I thought were interesting. So Taiwan Semi, let me just get the numbers. One of the things that I thought was interesting is they said that that the revenue climbs 39% in latest sign of AI spending boom. But I did see that there was a mention too that they saw that the June sees monthly decline. Perhaps that's the reason why it's a little bit off the highs there. And also, when I begin to kind of look at things technically, I'm looking at where the highs of last week. Taiwan Semi has not been able to take out those highs from last week. Welcome back, Dennis. We're just talking.
Yeah,
Taiwan
sorry.
Semi
That's a call that I have to take. So I've been waiting for that call
you're
forever.
Good.
So it was an appointment that I've been waiting for. And I was like, I saw the ad. I'm like, I got to take that call. So I've never had to do that. I don't think on pre-market prep I actually dropped to take that call, but I was like, I'm taking that call. And I knew this Christian Brentster could handle it. So I was like, I had a good team there with me. I'm like, these guys are okay for 2 minutes. So I am back. Yeah, and I see you talking the chips. I saw the Taiwan Semiconductor news from this morning. Chips all around are just hot here right now, though. So we have a lot of ratings. Goldman went nuts last night, and we're going to get to some of these, after Mark Chaken comes on too at 8:15. But I can just quickly, just tell you, there was like 7 or 8 notes from Goldman last night, and half of them were about the chips. They were coming in here, buy NVIDIA, buy AVGO, buy CDNS, buy SNPS, and then there was more. There was a whole nother note where they were buying a bunch as well. So, and then Micron got a buy rating from Deutsche Bank, and everybody's going chip crazy here. I mean, chips and dip, that's what the analysts like.
Chips and dip, I like that. You guys ready to bring Mark in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Here we go. Morning, Mr. Mark Chaken.
Hey guys, how are you?
We're doing well,
all right.
Mark. We're just looking at this market here, all-time highs. We're looking at the semis relentlessly getting bid here. NVIDIA hits a $4 trillion market cap. Tariffs have been forgotten. Everything looks good again. I saw your new commercial too, and you're saying that we're going really high here in 2025 and then the crash in 2026. But we won't get to that. We're just going to focus on the 2025 right now, Mark. Which
we don't want to front run a bear market, do
we? This market has turned to the good. And on April, the tariff day, the day he kicked that can, we have not looked back. But there's been no sector stronger than the semis. And I really want to start there. We could just start with the SMH, or we could get into individual stocks, but they are just up across the board. Like a stock like Micron has more than doubled since the April lows. A stock like NVIDIA has almost doubled. Stock like AMD has almost doubled. There's a lot of other chips like Applied Materials has gone way up. I mean, it's just strength across the board in the SMH. What are your thoughts here? Let's just start right there.
Well, the SMH is clearly telling you to look deeper into the components, and that's what you just did. You found the best of the best. Micron would be a big favorite of mine, mainly because they've already reported earnings, and the stock has digested them really well. Typically, when you report earnings at a new high, there's much more of a downside reaction than you saw here. Maybe you got 5 to 7% pullback from the 130 level. So I'd definitely be a buyer of Micron here. And the rest of the semiconductor group, you just named the names, they're all fabulous, particularly the equipment manufacturers. Very, very bullish on those names. And it's a good sign for the stock market as well, especially coming into earnings season.
What about a stock like AMD? And I'm long AMD. It's one of the bigger positions in my long-term portfolio. I've considered adding to it actually here because I feel like and this is my theory, my thesis is Nvidia's $4 trillion. You look at AMD and Lisa Su, and you think about, well, who could the number 2 player be? I think it's eventually going to be AMD. AMD's market cap is $224 billion.
Yeah, they have less than 5%
There's a
of
hell of a
the
lot
AI
of
chip
room.
market.
Like it's hard to double a $4 trillion company.
Yeah, this is AMD
Yeah,
is looking
like you got
great.
$4 trillion, and then you got okay.
Well, the only
so
thing
like,
that
so would you be a buyer here, or do you think
I
we
would
get a dip? Like,
well, we've just gotten a little dip. It's looking so similar to MU on the chart, except that MU is making new highs and AMD has room to go. The only thing that I'm seeing in the chart is that Chaikin money flow shows a much more normal pattern of buying and selling. There is not a apparently agreement on AMD from a technical and a fundamental point of view. The technicals obviously look good here. But if there was agreement, you'd be having buyers on dips and Chaikin money flow would stay green the whole pullback period. And that's not happening, which tells me in a perverse way that there's some upside here because there's not yet a buy-in the way you bought into it. I think people are still skeptical of their ability to capture market share.
And we watched this stock last year. There's precedence for this stock to go on incredible runs because this stock went from $91 at the end of 2023 to $227 in about a 4-month period, which is up 150% in 4 months. And we gave it all back, obviously, where they had to kind of lost their way. But I'm just going to say, I'm going to keep betting on Lisa Su here. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities that those all-time highs could be hit again on AMD at 227. So if you're looking for a laggard, that's got the potential for catch-up. I still like AMD here, too. What other names do you like in the sector here, Mark?
Well, I think NVIDIA is an obvious name, but it's not one that I'd add to here. I think if you own it, which my wife Sandy does, and she's owned it for 3.5 years, you stay with it. But I don't think you add to it here. Let's take a look at the components. It's stuff like CDNS, really, really strong. AMAT, Broadcom. These names are just on fuego, and I think you can stay with them. Really do.
I know this is what. Hey, Mark, how you doing? I know this is one of the names that you've looked at too in the past, which is Credo, which has been.
Oh yeah, it's funny. I don't think of Credo as a semiconductor company, but of course it is.
Yeah.
And it's just again en fuego. In this one you just have to buy pullbacks to the 21-day average. I don't think you're going to get oversold. So you almost did that last week when you had the 2-day pullback. I think the low was 84, and the 21-day average was about 81.
What does the money flow say about Astera Labs, ALAB? This is a nice looking tech. It's been kind of there's been a little bit of a tough one moving in a range back and forth, a little bit of some traps in there, but kind of looks ready at this point. Do you have any opinion on Astera Labs?
The chart doesn't turn me on. Power gauge rating had been bearish, which tells me the fundamentals were not looking good back in the spring, March, April, May. And it's been an underperformer. I don't, the difference between this and an AMD, other than about 300 billion in market cap, is this one's just going sideways, and the valuation's intense $490 million in revenue, $15 billion market cap. And money flows has been coming out of this now for a month. So I think there are a lot of skeptics there. If I was going to go in this, small revenue space, I'd go with Credo.
Gotcha.
Credo revenues roughly the same as Astera Labs, roughly the same market cap, by the way, but they are much better positioned technically.
So stick with the winner. Okay, gotcha. And
before we leave the sector, I'm going to give you the ultimate loser, though, and I just want your thoughts on this, too, is Intel, because this is a stock that obviously has just been dead, but showing some life in the last month. Is this just another rally to sell here, Mark, on Intel, or have they actually started to finally start to figure it out?
No, this is a rally to sell. Taking money flows coming out. Yeah, you just rallied to an upward volatility band on the strength of the group. Remember, you're buying SMH. You're buying, well, you used to be buying Intel, not anymore. Now you're buying NVIDIA, but or any of if they're cap weighted. But Intel's not the place to be. Just dead center, neutral power gauge, trading flat. Wouldn't be my favorite.
The chat wants your opinion on Marvell, MRVL. What do you got there? Chaikin money flow.
I think we looked at it last week on the 10 o'clock show. I actually said to sell it last week because it had rallied to its upper band with negative money flow.
Good call.
When it was up around 79.80, and that hasn't changed. These are laggards. Normally, there's a saying, I'd rather buy the weakest stock in a strong group than the strongest stock in a weak group. But semiconductors are a different animal. There are so many names there and so many different business models. So let's just take a look and see. We've got 55 semiconductor stocks with bullish ratings, 4 with bearish, and 51 with neutral. Just stick with the ones with the bullish ratings and strong money flow. Is my and you don't have to go to the biggest names like Broadcom, but you look at the Broadcom chart and you say, gee, I want to own that. Yeah, I think you have to look at the chart from a very practical way and say, do I want to own it or do I not? And the answer to that is it moving toward the upper right hand portion of the page and outperforming the market? This is technical analysis 201.
Mark, continuing on the tech theme, another monster stock has been Oracle. It catches an upgrade today from Piper. The stock has went from 120 to 240. So Oracle, being the huge company that Oracle is, has doubled in the last 3 months. Like, this is where I struggle as an investor. As a trader, I trade momentum. I jump in here and get in the trades. And I've been trading Oracle from the long side. Bought some in the, or we were talking about it last night in the STN room. Being long this stock. But I struggle, like, from an investment standpoint, to say, okay, I'm going to go invest in Oracle now at 240 when it was 123 months ago. Can you chase this stuff? Like, is it just not going to give us a pullback? Because it just doesn't pull back. It's just been straight up for 2.5 months.
Well, I think a lot of people were leaning the wrong way up into that earnings report. The stock had a bearish rating in our power gauge. It was making 52-week lows in the post-liberation pullback. And I think people are trying to get right-sided on the stock. But I agree with you. This is one I wouldn't chase. And, their whole sort of ethos in the market, their mojo is all about how AI is going to, and their cloud business is going to keep growing. And I think quarter by quarter, you've got issues. So you happen to have a good quarter at a time when semis and tech in general were hot. But I agree with you. I would not chase it.
Martin in the STN room wants to know about Qualcomm, QCOM.
Qualcomm. Bullish rating. I'd avoid it here for the same reason that I didn't like the smaller cap names we talked about. It's that flat sideways pattern with negative Chaikin money flow. It does have a bullish rating in our quant model, but At this point, I don't want to own laggards, especially laggards with a low PE, because that's telling you the market doesn't believe that there's real growth there. So you're talking about one of the most reasonable PEs in the semiconductor space. I've liked Qualcomm back 2 years ago because they had incorporated AI chips into handheld devices in supermarkets and warehouses, which I thought was going to be a big business. They were working with Zebra, who makes the scanners that the supermarket people use to keep stock and actually scan your groceries. So that looked like an interesting implementation of semiconductors and AI, AI on a chip for on-site use without having to log into the internet. But the stock hasn't been able to get any traction, and I think it's a laggard until proven otherwise. And it's underperforming the market now for a year. Things like that don't change quickly.
Hey, Mark, I love your thought on, owning the best names within this. It's a strong group. Stick with the names that kind of got you there. And I want to ask you as well about a little bit about Fintech, which has been a super hot group. Robinhood has been the leader in that group, but you've also seen some names like SoFi kind of join the party recently. I tend to get a lot of questions about Webull, which I kind of avoid a bit. What are your thoughts about this group, and do you think as well stick with the stronger names, or are you liking anything else within that group?
Well, for me, Robinhood is a play on digital currency. So if you like digital currency, whether it's Bitcoin or these stable coins, Robinhood is really the play there. I'm going to go far afield and mention a stock that we recommended in our new newsletter, Toast. Have you guys talked about Toast on the air?
Not in a long time.
Toast is amazing, and validation, you always, Peter Lynch kind of validation. We were out at a restaurant the other night, and guess what? Toast is their payment system. So one of our analysts, Joe Austin, did a deep dive on Toast. They've got almost cradle to grave services for restaurants, from reservations to payment to using AI to somehow zero in on customer preferences and seating and stuff like that. And the stock just made a new high yesterday. So it's pricey, but I think restaurants are a growth industry, and this stock really looks attractive to us.
Let's look at a couple other stocks here before we got 8:30 jobless claims coming up here. Move away from tech just for a second, because the banks have been relatively strong here too. I know the last couple of days that strength has kind of faded a bit, but we saw the stress test get passed. JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs did some buybacks. I think there was a few other ones obviously as well. They're starting to leak here a bit, and the reason I bring this up is because it's been really strong. Is this a dip you'd buy in the banks?
Yeah, I mean, some of them are not dipping. Bank of New York, which has been in one of our portfolios for a year and a half with a double, is not dipping. So I think there are banks, and then there are banks. So which ones do you see that are dipping here?
Well, I see Goldman in the last, and the dips. The funny thing is, Mark, is we're in this bull market where you get like a 3 or 4% dip, and I call that a dip now. We're not getting these 10% dips anymore, because they come back in. But Goldman was 724 4 days ago. It's 696 this morning. So you're talking about a 25-point dip, which on a $700 stock's only about 4%. Do we wait for bigger dips?
Well, unless you're a very short-term trader, you do. Chaikin money flow is en fuego. They're buying it. It broke out at 650. It broke out above its upper breakout band. And when it typically when it does that, it did it in May, you get a 5 to 8 day sideways move. In this case, after the breakout, you got 6 straight days up. I'd wait for a bigger pullback, maybe in the order of, well, you're not going to see 10%, but 7 to 8%. And if not, you just pass by. But you also have to look at Morgan Stanley, which I think is a different kind of bank, because their asset management business is so profitable. I think I'd rather buy Morgan Stanley on a dip. But again, same thing, overbought above the upper volatility bands. We use Keltner, not Bollinger, but similar idea. Earnings due out on the 16th. I think that's the same day that Goldman reports, or maybe it's a day later. Let's see.
Initial jobless claims were 227,000 versus 235,000. So just a little bit light. Market's not responding at all, so it doesn't seem to care. We do get some big CPI data next week. So just before we let you go, I just want to talk your outlook here. Fed speak, CPI comes next week. There's rumors kicking around that the Fed is starting to think, a little bit more on the cutting side here. What's Mark Chaken thinking on the cutting side?
I think it's a toss-up 50-50. If Powell wants to knuckle under to the pressure and enjoy the rest of the summer, he cuts. And if he sticks to his guns, then the cuts will come in September. But they're coming. The data is mixed enough that he could cut, and I think the markets would appreciate that, especially coming right at the start of earnings season. So, but I think earnings are more important here than whether Powell cuts
That's Mark
in
Chaken.
July. Yeah, because earnings, remember, analysts have cut their estimates dramatically heading into from where they were, say, in February, April, when taxes and tariffs were, when tariffs were announced. And so the expectations heading into this earnings season are low, easy to beat, and there could be some big beats. So I'm very bullish here. Could see 65, 6,600 before earnings season is over.
Okay, one more. I lied. I wasn't going to let you go here without addressing the super chat. We just got Craig LeBlanc wants to know about Alibaba, BABA.
No, that's a big,
No.
big no.
Big no to all of China?
Well, maybe. I've never, other than JD.com, I've never had a good handle on China, but Alibaba just doesn't cut it for me. I guess if you want to go far afield, you go to Mercado Libre, which has a bullish rating. No, a neutral rating on Alibaba, terrible looking chart, given the current market environment. Series of lower highs and lower lows. No, sir, not for me.
That's Mark Chaken from Chaikin Analytics. We always appreciate you coming on here, Mark, giving your thoughts. We appreciate you over in the STN room as well. So thanks again. Keep up the good work over there, Mark.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. See you next week.
We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Mark.
So a number of things we didn't address was before we go to ratings here, because there's like 100 of them to talk about. Brazil is down here. We got tariffs announced last night, 50% on Brazil. Brazil is down EWZ if you want to look at the ETF. There's a number of stocks, ERJ, even MELI is trading down slightly, which Mark just mentioned here because of the Brazil 50% tariffs. The S&P sell off on that last night too, because we were in the STN room live when it's hitting. S&Ps fell like 7, 8, 10 points. They were down most of the night. They get bought back. So again, this market resilience here when we're seeing tariffs, and it looks like Trump's going to start to get tougher on it. We saw a little sell-off the other day. Doesn't seem like the market cares that much anymore. You called this a while back, Christian. I can remember like 2 months ago saying eventually the market's going to start to get numb to these tariff deals headlines. We have officially hit that point where the market is kind of numb to it now. Whether call it the taco trade, where maybe they don't believe they're going to go in, or maybe they just don't care. Do you think that continues here, Christian? Like if he gets tougher on tariffs, does the market not sell off anyways?
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. I think at this point, some of these headlines, the market is kind of taking it as it's the opening of the negotiations, and it's okay. Like the 50% is coming, but where the negotiations are going to be. And I'm actually looking at, I got ERG, I got Embraer up here, which has big exposure to the US. They do a lot of business in the US. This is this is an ADR too, I believe, but I like it down to support. And this has been such a strong, I'm just going to bring up the whole chart here of Embraer. This has been such a strong name. We know that the aerospace group has been very strong. Boeing is, we haven't even talked about the Boeing breakout too, but Boeing's been hot. But I do like the pullback here, and on the possibility of like this is just the opening stage of negotiation with Brazil. He's hinted that he doesn't like. He's kind of brought this, and it's funny. Like last couple of days, I think he's mentioned Brazil. But what's interesting about this one is I don't know if it's so much about the trade, a trade deal, but he doesn't like what's politically gone on with Brazil. And I think it's I'm not up to the speed on Brazil politics, but I believe Bolsonaro, I believe, is the one that was kicked out of office, and I think Trump liked that political leader. So it'll be interesting if this starts to open up the communication lines and it ends up being short term. But for now, like the market, that's how the market is interpreting it. So I like this right here, right around $53, and I'm kind of interested in buying the dip in this one.
Nice. So looking at this, the previous strength, and saying, hey, the taco trade might come into play here too, where it's probably not going to land at 50%. Now that he's set the bar this high, if it lands at 20%, the market probably applauds that and goes back. So it's an interesting take there, Christian. Move on to ratings. There is so many analysts chasing, analysts all over the place here. Last night, Roku was probably the big one from last night, but this morning we just got so many happening here. So Roku got upgraded last night to KeyBank. I'm just going to run through them. Christian, list off the upgrades first, and you can stop me, or you can come and comment on any technicals you like at the end. But KeyBank upgrading Roku to overweight. I'm cherry picking the good ones here too. Piper upgrading Oracle to overweight. That feels really Johnny come lately. Baird upgrades Trex, TREX, to outperform. Citi upgrades the Carlyle Group to CG to buy. Goldman Sachs upgrades McDonald's to buy, which we haven't seen an analyst rating for McDonald's for a while. Wolf Research upgrades Piper Sandler, PIPR, to outperform. HSBC upgrades AMD to buy. Wells Fargo upgrades SNV. That's the bulk of the big ones here. TD Cowen upgrades HII as well. Is there anything in there striking CF's fancy?
Well, we talked a little bit about AMD and how, yes, it has been an underperformer, but I like this as a little bit of a catch-up trade too. And giving, seeing that there's, for the day, this could kind of set up here. Maybe seeing a little bit of momentum in this name. It's a hot group, and you got a nice upgrade in something that really has been a bit, kind of trailing the group. So I like AMD. You mentioned Trex. This is a home improvement. It's a flooring decking company. So all of a sudden, the home builders have kind of caught some fire here and some momentum lately. So I would keep an eye on this one. I used to trade all these flooring companies, the Floor and Decor, and then there was I forget which one was bought out recently. If anybody wants to throw that in the chat, because my memory's fading here on that one. But this has been a very strong, or was a strong group for a little while. So I would keep an eye on Trex. Let's just see if there's any resistance there that's coming. It did move up to 61. Right around 61.80. The next one, next level up is 66. But you look at some of these names like a BLDR, which has been acting really well. Look at it up again this morning. So the home builders have really kind of come to life. And it's a reminder too that I look at what interest rates are doing, and we haven't really seen any big move that's prompting this move in builders, in the building group. But we've got to remember stocks are forward looking. So they're pricing in something here. They're pricing in some positives here because we've seen the home builders really wake up over the last week.
I think they're looking at Fed speak. And we've seen multiple Fed officials, even yesterday, talking about potentially cutting rates. We had a couple of Fed officials saying, hey, they wanted to cut in July. So I don't think July cuts, obviously off the table here at this point in time. But I mean, there is now controversy, we'll say, to say the least. It's a little more controversial in there. It's not like everybody just wants to keep rates higher and they're worried about inflation. This is not the case. So I think what we're seeing with this home builder trade is the Fed speak of potential interest rates cuts coming sooner than later, driving that. And there's no sector more sensitive to interest rates than home builders, because everything is financed there. And, you know, interest rates go up and you can just afford a lot less house. Interest rates go down, you can afford more house. I mean, Trex specifically is a very expensive product, and it's an awesome product. I have it all over my decks. I love it. But it's about 10 times more to do a Trex deck than it is to do a regular deck. So if interest rates start to go down, Trex becomes a hell of a lot more attractive, because now all of a sudden maybe people can afford to do it. So we have seen this stock perfectly follow the interest rate curve. And what do I mean by that? Well, in 2021, in November 2021, they started talking about raising interest rates. Look at the fall in this, you know, huge fall. And, you know, the stock really hasn't gotten any life since. Yes, we rallied a bit in the bull market 23 and 23, 2024. We've come right back down. So this stock specifically, Trex, is very interest rate sensitive, even more so, I would argue, than the home builders, because it's an expensive product. So I think I'm with you here, Christian. Trex looks interesting here. And if we do think interest rates or cuts are coming, as long as they do actually come this time, this is a stock that could catch a bid. And it's really, you know, been an underperformer for a long time here. So it's interesting. McDonald's, I want to go to too.
McDonald's, Mickey D's.
Because nobody's talked Mickey D's for a long time. And then Goldman comes out of the blue last night, out of nowhere, upgrades the stock to buy, put a $345 price target on it. That's a pretty big price target for MCD. MCD is a staple that typically moves a buck or two a day. So it's having a huge move here today. I've been saying this market, though, it seems like the chase is on some headlines here. I feel like this could have 300 on it. What do you think, Christian?
I'm going to go the other way with this one. I think
Okay.
you can take your profits in this one. I just don't think that this group right now is in the hot group right now, and that could change, by the way. And I think the upgrades and seeing that is something to pay attention to. Let's see if it can hold 296 here. Let's see what it does for the day. But you got the initial pop, and the follow through could be follow through 300 would be taking out last week's high, so right around here. So I would be watching it, but not going to play it as far as looking at for that today.
Okay, so I'm going to go the other side and go to the downgrades. And there's a plethora of downgrades here as well, many of them chasing downgrades. And what do I mean by that? Well, you get Morgan Stanley downgrading CNC today. You get Morgan Stanley downgrading MOH today. I mean, these stocks are down 30 and 40% in the last week. Now they downgrade them. So we got analysts chasing price there too. So they chases on here too. Piper upgraded Oracle. They are downgrading Workday, and they are downgrading it to underweight, which is the equivalent of sell. I'm going to stop at that one here for a second, because that is interesting. Workday has definitely been an underperformer here for tech. It made the highs 300 2021, touched it and kissed it back in 2024, and we've never been able to get back up there since. So relative strength has just been non-existent here in WDAY. Christian, you have any thoughts here as WDAY gets downgraded this morning?
No, they did they downgraded Workday and they upgraded Oracle. Yeah, I mean, this one is it's flatlined. So again, I wouldn't force anything here in terms of, you know, looking to buy the dip. Again, of course, everything depends on your time frame, but man, this is really sideways. And again, I just think that there's so many strong areas of this market to kind of sit in and to be in and to buy dips in, but I continue to kind of avoid the ones that are the underperformers and kind of just focus on the stronger names. So I'll pass on Workday.
Okay, Coin gets the double downgrade from buy to sell at HC Wainwright. I'm jumping into this note here. They downgrade it from buy to sell, put a price target of $300. We are double downgrading shares to an out of consensus sell rating from our previous buy rating on valuation. While we continue to view Coinbase as the best of breed crypto exchange, remain positive on the sector, we believe valuation has outstripped near-term fundamentals following the stock's 150% rally since the April lows. So they're just simply ringing the register here, Christian. The stock was trading up at 379 this morning. This downgrade hit. Now it's down at 371. Now this stock just made a new all-time high here. Is this actually? I'm going to check that. In 2021 on IPO day it was 429, so it never got back there, but it's been trying to claw its way back since. CF, thoughts on Coinbase?
Double downgrade. It reminds me of double secret probation that they're putting the stock on. So I think I like this downgrade in terms of possibly you could buy the dip in this one. I think that the crypto space is very hot right now. Even though Bitcoin is down a little bit this morning, I think that this is a strong space. You also have a couple names. You have a couple areas like Ethereum that's getting hot right now too, which Coinbase also caters to, and all the other cryptos that are doing well right now. So I actually like the little bit of a dip here in Coinbase, and I would stick with this on the long side. Again, another name that is in the bucket right now of hot. It had a nice move yesterday. Look at how it digested this big, huge move that it had. I mean, I was really surprised at this move that it had out of this break higher. So very nice move. Little bit of a dip here that was bought about a week ago, and I think this thing's trying to break last week's highs and move higher. So I like that you could maybe buy the dip and on this broker's downgrade, double secret probation downgrade for you.
CoreWeave downgraded at Needham to hold. We believe the announced CORZ acquisition is a strategic fit for CoreWeave and would unlock a Needham estimated 150 to 200 MW of additional IT capacity. Blah, 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 whatever the hell that means. Additionally, the transaction allows CoreWeave to own high quality underlying infra, lowers its cost of capital, saves $500 million on operating expenses. We have updated our 2026 and 2027 estimates to reflect adjustments related to the transactions. However, there's the dreaded however word. However, with CRWV trading 41 times our 2026 EBIT, which seems kind of like actually not that bad, we believe valuation is full and downgrade to hold. This is a stock that has been unbelievably resilient. I covered yesterday how if you buy CORZ, you are actually buying CRWV at a 40-point discount. Doesn't matter. You cannot borrow the stock, and if you can borrow it, it's 200%. So even though everybody wants to downgrade this and wants to be bearish this thing, it just holds up because the short sellers are handcuffed here and just are non-existent. So I don't know, Christian. What are your thoughts? It's been hanging here at 150 forever. Is this thing just going to go higher?
Well, I think the story kind of shifted. Like, a name that's been strong. I think a lot of people were looking at buying the dip in the beginning of the week, and then you have a new story, which is that they're buying CoreZ. So it's these stories, and I know that you talk about story stocks. You've got a new story in CoreWeave, and I think that's going to hold it back a little bit. This potential acquisition with CoreZ is just going to be a weight on it. I agree. It's been holding up here pretty well. It has not broken the lows of it's been right around the lows of this week and the lows of last week, but it's trying to hold in there. The thoughts too that just to talk about the CoreZ for a second, I'm with you on this. I think buying the dip makes sense. One of the things that I was thinking about is that you've got that fixed ratio, because I'm not fully understanding why the stock is still going down. Maybe you've got perspective on this. My only thought is that if that it's tied to a ratio, and if CoreWeave continues to, if CoreWeave does break and go lower, then you're not going to get the same amount for CoreZ. So the variable, I think, is price. If price goes down in CoreWeave, then price has got to go down in CoreZ. What do you think?
Well, I covered this yesterday, and I actually bought CORZ live on PreMarket Prep, and I was quickly proven wrong because I bought at 14.29, and it opened low, and this kept going lower, and CRWV wasn't going down at all. So I'm like, you know what? When the risk arbitrage mechanism doesn't work, and it doesn't work in this right now because of the borrower on the one side, you can't even worry about that stuff. So I took my loss. I lost 30 cents on it, and I moved on, which sucked. It sucks to lose money, but hey, I'm the only trader on Twitter that actually loses money on trades. So I took that and moved on. But I mean, I don't get it. Like, I think it should be higher too, but the market just does not care. So, and if CoreWeave actually does start, to your point, Christian, if CRWV does start to break down, then it's going to take CRZ farther down with it. So I think one of two things has happened. Two things are happening. One, the risk arbitrage mechanism is pretty much non-existent because any hedge fund's got to borrow that isn't going to pay 200%, even if they can get a locate on CRWV to actually put the spread on. The second thing is maybe there's some worries that this deal doesn't go through. Maybe there's some worries that there's antitrust here, because we know, like, when you've got steep discounts, like it's trading like a 35% discount to the deal rate right now, that's usually indicative that risk arbs are saying no. So they're either just can't do it, or they're saying, no, there's risks to this deal. So it just goes down every day. I mean, maybe we got to stop to, and wait till it stops going down. But I mean, if you're buying CRWV, it seems a hell of a lot smarter to buy CORZ instead. But I've been proven wrong on this so far.
Yeah, from a technical standpoint, I like what you said there. Like, maybe wait until it stops going down. And that's kind of just technical analysis 101. I would be waiting for this to kind of for buyers to kind of emerge in this thing. I was thinking that yesterday it was kind of hanging around. This is my support level right around 14. I, at this point, would want to see it regain 14. If it doesn't regain 14 and it starts to continue to go down, then, the next stop would be 1190, which I don't think that it gets to. I don't think that happens. That means it gives back the whole
thing
move from acquisition. But I also don't want to really mess with it in here. I want to see buyers reemerge. Like, ultimately, there's got to be more than me that says, hey, I'm going to buy the dip. It's got to be some institutions who are going to move the stock. So above 14, I would be a buyer and it's still a dip. Like, people think, oh my God, I miss it, right? But it's still relatively a dip from when the deal was announced. So that's what I would be watching. I have it on my radar. I've got an alert on $14. I would be buying the dip there once it turns and goes higher.
Last rating, and then we're going to move on. I do want to talk Apple here today too, but Lockheed Martin catching a downgrade at TD Cowen. I think there's a place for the war trade here again. I don't think the war trade is dead. And I think I'm going to just sit out this until you start seeing some headlines coming where it looks like, stuff's starting to escalate maybe again in the Middle East. So I've kind of got the war trade on pause, but I don't think it's over. But I want to get your thoughts here too, Christian. LMT downgrade TD Cowen here today, but kind of just holding on. It's kind of just doing nothing here right now. Is there the potential this could start showing life here again? Anything you're interested, even, I could talk oil in this trade as well. But,
sure.
Obviously we've started to claw our way back in oil. So maybe we could even move there if you want.
Well, as you know, I mean, I've loved the Aerospace defense group for a while. But do I like Lockheed Martin? Absolutely not. That's not the trade in this space. If you really want to go into one of these names, I would be looking at Rathon, right? RTX, which is very, very strong. And I would be looking at, one name that I'm looking at this morning, and I know it's up a lot, but it had huge, great earnings, is Heiko, which got a price target raise this morning. It's sitting right into support at the 20-day moving average. Really want to buy the dip in this one. It's something that I'll be looking at. And again, this would be like I wouldn't say a longer term swing trade, but this is a name that I would want to be in. You got a dip from about 330 to 320. A couple of the other names are just up a little bit too much, and they need to pull back maybe a little bit more. HWM has been one of my favorites in the space. Unbelievable. A little bit of a dip, but again, I think the risk to reward, it's kind of tough, after that type of a move. But I mentioned Boeing. You want to get involved in a name that's kind of has been underappreciated. Get involved in Boeing here. Boeing is at a nice break higher. It's still decently below, but look at the difference. Take a look at the two charts. Lockheed Martin. Does it look like buyers are starting to come in Lockheed Martin? No, it doesn't. So wait until buyers start big. What I mean, buyers, like institutional buyers, they need to emerge. Do you think that Boeing has been seeing a turnaround and buyers emerge? I would say absolutely.
For sure.
And look how it shook off. We haven't heard much about what happened with that India crash now about a month ago. But look at how Boeing has been responding. So I would, same. I don't think you have to chase Boeing here, but on down days, or some type of small bad news, maybe you'll look at Boeing. But I think that this space is going to continue higher. I just think you want to watch your exposure. You don't go into the names that are the underperformers. There's been such a rally in this group that should tell you something about the underperformers.
Breaking news here. We are getting confirmation Ferrero will acquire WK Kellogg. That's ticker KLG. $23 per share in cash. Shares of KLG were trading over $26 on the rumor, now selling off here toward that $23 per share cash offer. Stock trading $22.68 last trade. We are seeing moves lower here in the other consumer / cereal names. General Mills, Post, ConAgra, Campbell's, Kraft Heinz, all selling off here on this confirmation of news. This is a $3.1 billion deal for KLG.
Yeah, so we were covering this last night in the STN room as it happened. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, well, who is buying this thing? Because it went 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. I was like, I've never seen a move like that in a cereal stock before. And then there was rumors the deal was going to be over $30. And if it gets confirmed, I'm like, that is just the most incredible premium that would ever be paid. But I'm like, there was like, talking about, the valuation and talking about, the rumors. So it comes in officially here this morning and the number's a hell of a lot lower. So it's not, $30. Yeah. It's not 27 or 28 where the algos are buying up to. It is $23. So now you're selling it at $22.67. And this actually was, some life last night in a lot of those consumer staples names. I had a good trade on Post in the STN room, POST, that I had bought and sold. It went from 105 or 105.72 up to over 110. There was a number of other stocks lifting. General Mills was one. That's all getting back here this morning because this premium is a hell of a lot less than, what maybe some people thought it was going to be. Wow. That was a big move, though.
So, I mean, still a 30% premium from where the stock was trading.
Yeah, which
yesterday.
Sounds right on a cereal stock, but I don't know. People are buying at $26, $27 last night, speculating it could be over 30, and that's what was going around in social media last night was that this deal was going to go off the board. Some were saying $34. So they were talking like with the $3 billion valuation there, which it's still saying $3 billion valuation. So I'm not sure total enterprise value of $3 billion, not stock value, because if we're just jumping in, and maybe that's where the confusion started here, even for us, like KLG's valuation at the close was 1.5 billion. Its enterprise value is higher though at 2.2 billion. So you're looking at obviously that, and you're looking at debt, and you're looking at everything else involved. So that's maybe where the confusion happened. But the premium a hell of a lot less than what the algos thought. So algos were confusing enterprise value with stock value. Apple. I did the rant yesterday. Kind of maybe started a little bit of a fire here because I did the rant yesterday on pre-market prep yesterday morning about how maybe Apple needs new leadership. Interesting. We had a note from Lightspeed Partner come out at 1 o'clock that Tim Cook needs to go. And then CNBC, Fast Money, covers at 5 in their 5 o'clock segment last night about potentially firing Tim Cook. So, I mean, this is just starting to, take a little bit of life here on. Stock is down $1 here in the pre-market. It was very, I've just been saying innovation is dead. So I'm going to stick with what I said. A lot of that stuff was covered last night on CNBC as well, is that there's just, been very little innovation here in the last decade. The stock has went up substantially, and this is what, the traders will tell you is, well, the stock's done fabulous. And yes, it has, but it's been multiple expansion, and it's been buybacks that have really driven the price here. If you look at Apple, just, from a sales perspective here, it's got the cash cow of the iPhone. That's really where it is. So, I'm not going to repeat everything I just said yesterday, but just interesting, now it's starting to catch on that, maybe there is going to be, some people starting to look at leadership here because CNBC was talking about it last night. CF, you got any thoughts on Apple?
None. No touch.
None.
No, thank you.
It's just not a CF stock here. The relative strength is poor. Christian likes his momentum. The only momentum in Apple is sideways, and that's like, the dead stock. So
it's just I think it's the trend is sideways, and I don't have a catalyst for it. So there's, you know, if there's a catalyst that's going to come, or if we know of something, you know, maybe it could break that sideways trend. But it's, you know, again, like long term, you know, if you're looking at 3-5 years, is this a stock to own? For long term, will you do okay? Sure, I think so, but I don't have any reason to be in it right now.
MP is now up 64%.
What a
I'm
move.
sitting here jaw dropping. Like, this isn't like a penny stock. And yeah, the contract, it was good. But I mean, we got to give a perspective. What was the deal, like the contract for? I'm just trying to grab it. Was it 400 bill? Like, what was it? 400 million.
400 mil, and then there's $1 billion, I think, loan facility that they got. So, you know, magnets. It's all about the magnets.
And you're talking
ball
about a
bearings.
company, you know, that had a market cap at the start of the day of $4.9 billion. So they get a $400 million deal, and that adds 65% of the price. The chase on headlines is on. Like, I'm a headline trader, and I'm telling you, man, they are chasing headlines right now. Those algos are just hot and chasing stuff. That's an incredible move. That might actually be, you know, getting to be like the BTCM move was huge and it's starting to come off, but this might be one of the stupidest moves of the day too. This thing up over $50 just seems way overdone to me. Teradyne had news too, Brent, before we go. Brentster in the background. On mute. Brentster, mute.
I have it.
Sorry.
Teradyne tapped for Amazon's revolutionary new robot. Amazon's Vulcan robot has been hailed as a step change breakthrough. The first warehouse robot is a sense of touch. But here's what's missed: the arms come from Teradyne. So there you go. That's a post I'm seeing on Twitter.
We knew that Amazon unveiled this robot like back late April, early May. I do not, like Christian said, I do not believe that we knew that the sensitive part of the warehouse robot was a Teradyne product. So we have stock up a good $3 or so here on that.
Wow. Big moves here this morning, folks. Big moves. We're going to continue to cover them over in the STN room. We'll see you over there. Christian, thanks so much again for joining us here. We'll be back at your same bad time, same bad channel tomorrow morning. Let's go.
Have a great day, guys.